Hey, and welcome to Matt and Jess TV. I am Matt Roast.
And I'm Jessica Bun Bun.
Welcome to our reaction and review for Widow's Bay Season 1, Episodes 6 and 7. And man, is there so much to say about these episodes.
Absolutely. And I'm really glad that they put these two episodes together. I feel very much that when we get these backstory, lore, way back in the day, this happened type episodes that are usually really important to the show, but a lot of times can lose an audience where we're like, oh, we just want to know what happened to Tom and what happened to Wick. And now we're getting all this backstory on Richard and Sarah. Why do we care about them? I feel that they've put these two episodes together so that none of us walk away feeling that way, that we're like, oh man, we got to wait a whole week to find out what actually happened to Tom and Wick. No, we don't. We get all the lore of what happened, which is really important with Richard and Sarah. And then we get what happened to Tom and Wick.
I think we should just point out from the start how unbelievably gutsy these two episodes are. I mean, especially episode 6, where, and I hope this is not the case, I worried while I was watching it of, oh, is this too weird for some people going back to this time frame? It felt to me very Sleepy Hollow-ish. I'm not talking about the Fox show. I'm talking about the actual story of Sleepy Hollow, which is totally my bag. So I really, really liked it, but it is such a big experiment for a show like this in its first season to be like, you know what? We're going to give you an episode that basically does not have any of the main characters. And this is after already giving you an episode that barely had Matthew Rhys in it at all.
Absolutely. But man, was it important to have this. I mean, there was a lot of information that we didn't have before that now we do, all about this true site.
Yeah. And I think what makes it all the more fascinating is it's just like we have a lot more answers, and yet it also still feels like answers because there's still so much that is left open to discuss and try to figure out.
It is. And that's why after these two episodes, I have to ask you guys, like right off the rip, are you still team Supernatural, or are you still team people are behind it? Or is it the new open third door that it's the true site is happening to everybody?
Yeah. And this is where I still want to feel like there's maybe a real explanation behind all of it, but I've admitted that I've struggled with this more and more over time, and having dead/not dead Richard around for pretty much the entirety of episode 7, that has made it a lot harder. I mean, we're really going to have to bank on some, okay, these people are not on the right mind.
Absolutely. Otherwise, this has to be supernatural. How do you have Richard sitting on this bed?
Yeah, well, we're going to try to get into all of that. We're going to also talk about this huge Evan reveal at the end of episode 7. All of this is game changing. All of this reshapes the way in which we're thinking about Widow's Bay moving forward. Before we dive into it any further, be sure to hit that subscribe button so that you guys are with us through the rest of Widow's Bay. We're going to be talking through these episodes, sharing some theories, and of course, we love hearing what you guys have to say in the comments as well.
Be sure to join our memberships. We have a brand new video up that is all about the true site and how it's connected to so many characters having a drink right before things happen. These mushrooms are everywhere on the island. Could they be in the water? True site or not true site? Join our memberships. It really helps us here at the channel.
It really does. We are so grateful to everyone out there who has. Okay, well, let's just start with episode 7 because I feel like there's a lot in here that ties into the episode before, starting obviously with Richard on the boat. And I want to just say, from a quality standpoint, this is my favorite episode of the season. This is one of my favorite episodes of any show so far this year. There's something about the vibe and the confidence and the way that it's very slow moving, but it almost felt like, and it's weird that we're out on a boat talking about this, it's a lot like Jaws, where we're kind of sitting back and being like, okay, when is the shark going to hit? When is everything going to completely hit the fan? And we don't really know. And then eventually, of course, it does. Richard starts unleashing all of this havoc. They seemingly are able to eradicate him. And then we have Wick and Tom just laughing in quite possibly the most delirious way possible.
Okay, did they really get rid of the problem? Richard was like, I'm the last of my bloodline. I'm the person that made the deal with this entity. If I'm gone, your problems they'll all be gone as well. And I'm just like, no, I don't think that that is the case because tinfoil hat,
Mm-hmm.
I think that the boogeyman also took the true sight and made a deal, and because there was a lot of similarities to these stories. Richard was saying like, this is what happened to me, they were unable, they came and they tried to stab me in the night and I didn't die, and they had to put me underground to be able to stop me altogether, and I still didn't die. Well, that was also the story of the boogeyman, that he was, killing these different girls. And then finally they came up, they were like shooting him and trying to take him down, and nothing was taking him down. They had to bury him under cement under the house. I'm like, oh, he's still alive then. He's obviously taken this true sight as well and has made the same deal. So, Tom and Wick, I'm so sorry, but you guys have another problem, and it is under that house.
This is what I find so dark and hilarious about episode 7 is that you do have Richard being like, "Oh, once you get rid of me, you
That's a
get
good
rid of
Richard.
your." Oh, well, I'm already coming off a cold, so I feel like I kind of have whatever Thomas Linklater is doing as Richard in these episodes. Which, by the way, he joins Jeff Hiller in the Almost Every Role I Do Is Really Creepy Club. Yeah, I
Yep.
have not seen Somebody Somewhere, Jeff Hiller fans. I'm sorry, I do not know the good side of him, but everything that Richard says, dude, you have been buried for a very, very long time.
Yeah.
How do you know anything? Like, I also feel like we have to take, as funny as the show is, we also have to take it seriously with the information that it gives us.
Yeah, because that conversation between Tom and Richard has the two of them thinking they are the only ones over all this time
Yeah.
since, 1702 or whatever it was, that has ever taken this true sight and had this entity show up. Where Richard's like, yeah, I made the deal. Tom's like, I didn't make the deal. I decided no. So I was praying to God. This thing showed up. I said no. So cool. So if you're gone and I didn't take it, we're all good. I'm just like, guys, there's so many years in between Richard
Yeah.
and Tom that you think that nobody else took this true sight. He has said that this island is covered in it.
Yeah. Okay. Let's just assume that this entity is this real supernatural being for a
Yes.
moment here. And the obvious Stephen King, welcome to dairy comparisons are here. So let's just throw this out here.
Yeah.
Pennywise was basically appearing, and my memory may escape me, but around 28-year cycles here. This entity is going to just peace out for centuries and be like, yeah, I'm good. And then, like, if he does show up for the boogeyman, like you're saying, like, there's plenty of evidence of that. But there's also a very good chance there's a ton in between. This is why, if the show is going down this road, like, they have potential for so many seasons, just because, like, there's all sorts of stuff that could have happened that nobody even remotely knows about at this point.
Yeah, I mean, if we're getting a season 2, I mean, they could be saving everything that happens with the boogeyman for next season. They've really been ramping that up. We, saw Evan, maybe gonna go up to the house. There's all the stories from Patricia, there's the stories from the mean girl about what happened
Yeah.
to the other girls. That was one of the things that Richard brought up. He's like, listen, the entity needs lives, and this is how I was keeping the entity fed to be able to keep us fed. I had to feed the entity basically people, souls, blood. There had to be blood sacrifices. We know that there is that chair, that electric chair that is
Yes.
under the ground, under the town. And back then, there was also a chair in the exact same room that Richard would go to. There's blood everywhere. It wasn't an electric chair, but it was still a chair. So somebody somewhere in this town, I feel like, has a current deal with the entity and is still sacrificing people. So if we know that this entity required these sacrifices and that's what Richard was doing way back in the day, we also know that the boogeyman has been killing people. So is that what's been happening for him? And now we're in this new age now where we have this electric chair under the city. Is somebody there feeding souls to the island?
I think what makes this whole premise interesting for the oh, this is not supernatural crowd is that somebody could be like, oh, I'm feeding them for the entity, and the entity is not actually real, and they just believe that they're feeding them to the entity. Like, they are leaving open that possibility.
The problem is that we only have 2 stories right now, and both of these stories where the entity showed up after I took True Sight. So, I mean, if True Sight is making them see and do all these weird things, maybe it's not real.
Okay, here's where we also need to have a conversation about Tom and this conversation he's having about, oh, I did not take the deal. Tom, are you sure? Are you 100%? Are you gonna pinky promise? Because this is the thing, as accentuated in these episodes, you lie all the time, and you may
All the
not
time.
always lie because we know that there's a lot of different people who lie in the world. There are those who lie because they just like it, because they're kind of twisted that way. There are people who want to hurt other people. And then there are people who just lie because it is easier than telling the truth, because perhaps they're a little bit cowardly. And I think it is fair to say, Tom, you got just a little bit of that cowardly in you. I mean, you're wearing this really ridiculous life preserver all of episode 7. And yes, stay safe, everybody. It's important to wear a life vest. But I think they intentionally chose like the biggest one possible for Matthew to wear. Like, I think the whole point they're trying to make in this episode with Tom, whether it be something as silly as the obvious reminder of a life vest, or something as real, which includes him lying to Wick about whether or not he let Richard out or doing it in advance. Like, all of this is just a reminder that, all right, he lies, and he also lies out of cowardice.
Okay, speaking of lying and Tom's lies, he has told a whopper of a lie to his son, Evan. And Evan has now figured that out while, having his girl over. They're going through this box of stuff, and in there are pictures of his mom holding him as a baby and his mom sitting on the floor with him as a toddler. Now, Evan has been told that his mom died in childbirth, and that is clearly not the case. And we have seen this whole backstory, but very little of it, where we had Tom and his pregnant wife going on the ferry over to the mainland. All of a sudden she was like, I can't see. The last we really saw of her was she was sitting in a hospital bed, and she was sitting up and the door was shutting. So this makes me feel like, tinfoil hat,
Yep.
that his mom, Evan's mom, is alive, and that she is on the mainland, and that she was well enough for a while to be able to come back to the island to be with Evan. But there became a period of time where she was not well enough to come there anymore. And he knew that if Evan knew his mom was alive and not on the island, he would leave. And I think because Tom truly believes that his wife leaving the island caused this to happen to her, he is convinced that if his son leaves the island, it will happen to him. But now that top is off, and it is not going to be great for him trying to keep his son on the island if he ends up actually telling his son the truth about everything. Because he may lie again and be like, oh yeah, she was alive for a little while, but no longer.
Well, and here's the thing. Now that Evan knows this, now that he has been lied to by his dad for basically the entirety of his memory,
Yes.
he's not going to believe anything he says at this point.
And he shouldn't.
Yeah, Tom could say that, his wife sprouted wings and she's flying around. Like, he could give the most realistic explanation, the complete opposite. Like, none of that is going to matter to Evan anymore. Now, like, I thought of about a million different possibilities when we saw this reveal. Like, where I've settled is that I think what you're saying is probably right, because I think they aren't going to have her be dead at this point. Like, I really don't feel like,
No.
what's the point of showing us that, all right, she didn't die in childbirth, for then to be like, oh, she died 5 years later? Like, that doesn't really extend the story forward in any way.
No, it really doesn't. I mean, then why not just tell Evan, yeah, she was alive for a little while and then she died? Like, it doesn't make any sense that she's dead. She has to be alive.
Here is where, okay, we're about to really go out into bizarre territory here.
All right,
because
let's go.
this is probably the weirdest idea I thought of, which was that, all right, what if it turns out that Tom's wife has some sort of deal with the entity and
Mhm.
like he knows that something happened to her that has caused her to go and turn into somebody completely different,
Mhm.
that she is actually still, whether she's not on the island or not, like that she is capable of really bad things. And this is the whole age old I'm lying to you to protect you thing that we have seen a million different times. But I mean, my problem with this theory is simply that, all right, if Tom knew that his wife had taken this real bizarre turn, like, why wouldn't he have basically any memory of that whatsoever? It doesn't feel like that's something that is living consciously in his head. Like, it would have to be something that's really repressed and he just doesn't want to remember it.
I mean, yeah, they have said that this true sight is everywhere on the island. So is it possible that she's eaten some or it's been in some sort of a drink or something like that, where she ended up taking it either willingly or not willingly, and then this happened on the ferry?
I think one of just the real interesting questions that come out of both of these episodes really is, it's just how many people actually truly know what's going on at this point,
Yep.
and how does that play into the whole supernatural or not supernatural debate? Like, it's connected in
Hmm.
some ways. Speaking of true sight, that everything that happened with Tom in episode 5, like, we still don't actually know whether or not all of his little adventures were real or a figment of his imagination. And then if you just pay attention to the end of episode 6, where we see Richard's body being pulled up out of the ground, there's multiple people there, including some like Widow's
Yep.
Bay red shirts. So it's just like there's some other people who seemingly were a part of this.
Listen, I know that there's a lot of people that are feeling like this is
Yeah.
supernatural, and I hear you.
Mhm.
I want this to be supernatural so bad. It makes it way more fun. But when I saw that at the end of the episode, where I was like, who are all these other people with Wick? This is
Mhm.
not just Wick, Patricia, and Tom that knows what's going on. He has a group of people with him digging Richard up. So if that's what happened, and you've got Richard in there alive, who at that point, if they're moving him, he's probably talking. He was
Mhm.
talking when he was being moved around elsewhere on the boat and stuff like that. So how does this other group of people not know what's going on? And it all ties back to, I know I'm going to hear it in the comments and I want to hear it, which is that there is a group of people
Mhm.
that are in control of what is going on this island and are creating hysteria, lore, all these different things.
And I think what still makes that idea still supernatural, sort of in a way, is
Yes.
that they will have believed that everything that they're doing is for a very specific reason. Like,
Yes.
you can be doing things actively to cause hysteria while still also feeling like this town is haunted, that there is X, Y, and Z going around. You are legitimately trying to protect people. And I think that's what makes this debate so interesting. And
Yep.
that's why it is not so cut and dry by like any means at all.
No, I agree. I think that there is actually like a foot in each camp. I
Hmm.
think that there's multiple things happening on this show where there is all the lore of the supernatural, of all these things that are happening, and that the group of people that are behind this do believe in that to some degree. And they're like, well, we have to protect what the island wants. The island doesn't want people to leave. We got to make sure that other people are scared enough that if maybe they haven't experienced something, that we can make sure that they're scared enough not to leave. Because if they leave, they're going to die. Bad things are going to happen to them.
Yeah. So, like, other, I think, loose ends questions I still have coming out of all of this, like, beginning with the idea that, all right, we had everything that was going on with the cylinder, we had the
Yeah.
mythology explained with that. I mean, I do like that if this is supernatural, we kind of know how some of it works at this point,
Hmm.
that it is connected to an entity, to Richard. But
Yeah.
then I'm also sitting back and thinking, all right, a lot of these other people at the formation of this town in the 18th century, like, they were there. Are there other artifacts, memories, ways in which they can look up? Like, what is actually real and what's not, because this is all about unreliable narrators at this point
Yes.
with this show. Like, we're dealing with a very small amount of information, whether it is from Sarah, Richard, whoever else. Like, where is the alternative point of view on all of this?
Yeah, and that's where we go back to the historical society, because a lot of the stuff that's
Mhm.
in there has seemingly happened. And while you've got Tom out here being like, oh, this church thing where
Yeah.
they were eating each other, that never happened. No, but it did. Okay, let's also talk about the sheriff, because we've been kind of excited about the idea that the
Yeah.
sheriff might join,
Mhm.
Patricia and Wick and Tom to go on some of this adventures with them. And I really like that idea because he is just a not believer. He does not believe what is going on at all. And while Patricia is like, okay, you know what? I'll tell you what's going on. She's like, you haven't even heard half of it. And he's like, I've heard enough. I don't want to know anymore, because if I know more, then I'm in it. And I'm just like, oh man, you need to be in it.
I feel like the sheriff at this point is representing a lot of the non-supernatural people who are watching this
Yeah.
show. And I think it's good to present both points of views. And when the sheriff ends up getting more all in on all of
I
this,
hope
like, yeah,
so.
I think this is the thing. There's still so much of this season left to go. And it just feels like that's the reason why Wick and Tom, you guys aren't done with all of this. You can do your victory dance. What are you guys just gonna fart around for the last 3 episodes? Like, of course there's more.
Okay, this is how I think Tinfoil
Yeah.
Hat, the sheriff, is going to get involved. I think it wasn't a coincidence that we saw Evan going up to the boogeyman's house. The sheriff happened to be either rolling by or whatever was happening at that time and happened to be there to be like, get away from that
Mhm.
house. I wonder if because Richard's like, oh, I'm the last of the bloodline. Once you get rid of me, it's going to be great. Ah, high fives. We're all good. And then they're going to realize that the boogeyman made this pact as well. And now we all have to deal with it. This is where the sheriff, I feel like, is going to have to come in, because if he's doing rounds about this house to make sure everything is safe, nobody's going in, whatever, whatever. And then you got Tom and Wick and Patricia rolling up to this house and they're like, okay, we got to break through that floor and get that boogeyman up. The sheriff is involved now.
Yeah, and I think this is what makes the final episodes of this season exciting. Because if once again, when the sheriff joins, we're gonna have the four musketeers here. But the problem with the four musketeers, none of them have any good reason to believe in the other people. Like, even Patricia, this is the funniest moment of these 2 episodes, but her being like, oh, I'll take care of the sheriff. And then she just like gets in the car and tries to drive it. Like, there's no way I'm going to trust her to deal with anything at this point.
This show is so funny, and it's so weird to be saying that because this show has also given me nightmares. That second episode with that clown in the crawl space still just does it for me. It's so frightening.
Yeah, like even in episode 6, which was mostly really serious, when Sarah runs in and interrupts the whole meeting, her like stopping to curtsy in the middle of it, they still managed to make that funny. Like, this show is really delivering everything, guys.
Absolutely everything. It is the best new show of the year. It is not close.
All right, well, that is where we are coming out of Widow's Bay, season 1, episode 6 and 7.
Mhm.
What did you guys think about all of this? Where do you think we're going? Let us know. Thank you so much for your support, and join our memberships for a larger discussion about True Sight, and we'll see you here next time.